Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, it's great to be here. My name's Natasha. I'm a sound designer based in Sydney. So I specialize in audio for visual media, so things like film, TV, video games, that sort of stuff. And yeah, for the
Yeah.
most part, most of my projects have been in commercial TV advertising. Just at my current workplace, I met a mentor of mine, and through him, I was able to get involved in a lot of mixing and sound designing for commercials. On the games development side of things, I'm on the audio team for Skywind, which is, if you haven't heard of it, a project. It's a big community of enthusiasts who are essentially recreating the Elder Scrolls Morrowind game
Oh, okay.
in the newer, more updated Skyrim game engine. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a big, ambitious project. We have to create all the assets from scratch. Um, but yeah, it's a lot of fun to be a part of.
Now, is this something you've always wanted to do? When you were much younger, was it something that was like, I want to get into, sound. I want to get into voice acting. I want to do, this sort of career.
Yeah, it's funny how I got into it. So I, along with probably a lot of other sound designers, started off as a musician. So I knew from a young age, I've been playing piano since I was 5. I was one of those kids. Um, and I knew from, probably my mid teens that I wanted to pursue a career in music, that I wanted to do entertainment. But I didn't ever think that I would get into sound design or like audio engineering or anything like that. I just sort of didn't really know much about that world. And it was through later on when I went to study music at university, and then through that degree, I ended up discovering sound design and realized that I actually like this a lot more than just playing piano. So, yeah, that's how I got into it. And then, yeah, from there, it was just learning a lot of the different ways of working in film versus video games because they're all vastly different disciplines.
Yeah. So how different are they? Like when you're doing sound design, just say opposed from a film and a game.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest difference is that games are interactive,
Hmm.
whereas film is linear. So often with film, by the time it gets to the sound person, you've probably got the final picture, you know how everything's going to sit, um, and so you just work through that. But with games, you don't really have the final product because ultimately that experience gets changed by the player. So the way you work is very different because you got to account for all these different scenarios, and that causes a lot of different problems that you have to solve with mixing, with design, all that sort of stuff. Just a lot of different things to consider.
Okay. And so with your process, what sort of software do you use, to for mixing and things, and what is like what is a big part of your role when you're using maybe technology based sort of systems?
Yeah. It's often a question that's asked, and the thing is, it doesn't really matter all that much. For example, a lot of people like to ask, what DAW do you use? Really, any DAW will suffice. Personally, I use Pro Tools because that was the one that I learnt off of first. Um, Actually, when I took my first university class, it was taught in Logic. We had the option to do it in Pro Tools because the computers also had Pro Tools. And my way of thinking was, well, you hear that Pro Tools is sort of the industry standard, and I didn't have Mac computers at home because Logic is only on Mac, and so I just decided, well, I'm going to learn Pro Tools. And so here I was in uni, never touched a DAW before, and was trying to follow along all the tutorials that were taught in Logic, in Pro Tools, and that was interesting. But now, yeah, like it's a great piece of software. It's very versatile, but again, you have to decide what it is that you want to do. If you know what you want to do, different software might be better for your specific application. For example, a lot of composers might work in Ableton, just the workflow is better for that kind of activity.
Okay, so and also you're talking about like your piano playing and music and that. Do you still play music for like a hobby or in your spare time, or is sound design pretty much at the moment taking up kind of all your time?
Yeah, that's pretty much right. I definitely play a lot less than when I was playing music for my university degree.
Yeah.
But yeah, I play every now and then, more just for fun. For me now, it's more of a hobby, and I definitely spend a lot more time doing sound design stuff these days. Yeah.
Now you were mentioning a mentor before. How important is having a mentor when in this point of your career?
Yeah, so important.
Mm.
I mean, I would put the majority of the stuff that I learned as like I would accredit that to him more than what more than the university degree, honestly. Um, and the other thing with a mentor is it's specific advice and guidance for you, and that's always better than teaching to a class. If you can get individual attention, you can ask questions that are specific to you and get help that's specific to you. And also, for me, like I studied a music degree and ended up, because how I got into sound design was in the middle of the degree they actually changed the course structure, and so my year was the guinea pigs to actually go through this new course structure. And we were already in the middle of our degree, so it was like really weird.
Yeah, it's a common
that they
story I've
changed it
heard
on us.
before.
Yeah, and no one really went into this degree and expected to come out studying sound design. I mean, you could pick different disciplines, but that was the one that I chose. And all my peers, I don't think any of them had really done anything to do with sound design before. We were all just musicians. We played acoustic instruments.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what I learned after I graduated was just me trying to teach myself with the internet and whatever resources and courses I could find online. And that's can be a very slow process. So if you find a mentor, it speeds that up so much just because they know exactly the skills to teach for a specific purpose as well. So I was doing commercials in TV, so I learnt the exact process to actually take that commercial from unmixed to mixed, sound designed, do all the voiceover recordings, edit the dialogue, and send that through the final mix. And so having that specific purpose is really helpful. And having someone to actually help you through that is really helpful.
And so with your journey going through, what has changed, you think, with you from when you kind of started in sound design to now, that you look at and go, wow, I've kind of, not much about, I'm not talking about technology or anything, but for yourself, what have you learned for yourself that's changed from when you started to now?
What specifically do you mean by that?
As in your own personal growth or things that you've learned with, dealing with projects or, for yourself, you may have had a different view of going, oh, okay, I do things this way and this is how I kind of feel about this. But now it's, I've grown so much because I've been exposed to different things and, this, I prioritize more and this is, I don't, or this is more stressful and this is not. And
Yeah, you definitely learn the way you work, I think, is a really important thing, and that just comes with practice and doing it a lot over time. Learning how you learn is another thing. Being able to know what specific resources or what kind of practice you might need, um, or even just like the soft skills of networking and collaborating with people. Those are all things that just have to be learnt by doing and having the experience through doing. That's a lot of skills that you pick up, and I think you'll learn throughout your life and always be learning and building on. But they're important personal development skills, I think. Yeah.
yeah. And so, where do you see yourself going? If you've got aspirations to go, look, these are sort of projects I want to work on. I'd like to go overseas, or I'd like to work on these type of projects. Or do you have anything that you kind of you envisage might be doing in the next 5 to 10 years? You'd like, I'd like to go in, this direction, or I want to try these things.
Yeah, I definitely want to work overseas. I mean, one of the biggest reasons is there's not too big of a games industry here in Australia. um, but things are difficult right now, of course,
Yeah.
with the current global stuff going on. But yeah, definitely working overseas is something I'm really interested in. And definitely I want to work in entertainment, whether that be ideally I want to work in video games, but I won't say that I'm only limiting myself to that, because I do also really like film. And I would hope that over the course of my career I get to work in a bit of both.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Fantastic. Great. Well, this is something I always ask of all the people I'm speaking to is, what's your favorite movie? Maybe your favorite video game, favorite TV show, or, things you're currently watching or kind of playing around at the moment.
Yeah, sure. Lately I haven't actually been watching too much TV or films, really. I sort of go through periods where I'll play a lot of games or watch a lot of movies or watch a lot of TV.
Mm.
I'd say, though, one of my favorite TV shows of all time would be Mad Men.
Yep.
I just think it's hilarious. Have you seen it?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you like it?
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's great.
I can relate to some people that I've actually
To a lot of characters.
Yeah, some of those people I'm like, I've known that person before, so.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's just funny. I've been playing a lot of games lately. Mostly indie games these days, just because I think nowadays when you're working and you're also pulling along side projects and all that, you have less time, and so I don't find that I can block out, because when I'm playing AAA games I like to block out a few hours to actually just spend in that world. But I find that I have less time to do that these days, so I probably tend towards indie games. As of late, I've been playing a lot of Darkest Dungeon.
Yep.
Do you know that one?
Yes.
Yep, that one's a lot of fun. It sounds great as well. The people who did the audio on it, Power Up Audio, they did an absolutely fantastic job. It just sounds so good. But also, what else have I been playing? I started Borderlands 3 as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I hop into that every now and then. I was a huge fan. I didn't play 1. I played 2. Was a huge fan of that one. So now I'm playing through 3. Yeah, I can't really remember. I'd have to bring up my Steam page just to see my most recently played games. But yeah, I enjoy a lot of games like Into the Breach, if you've heard of that one.
Yep.
Celeste is really great. A lot of these games that you can just sort of play in little bits.
Yeah.
Just sort of like take a break between working on other things or something.
A big
Yeah.
common thing a theme that I've been finding with everyone that I've been speaking to lately, and this is common in the past, when I asked about these things, they go, yeah, really kind of busy, kind of, I'm doing this and this and the same thing. Yeah, I'd like to dedicate some time to play this, but
Yeah.
yeah, not as much now because I'm either doing this or I'm working and I've just had children, or I've, or they're like, no, I'm totally involved in this moment at the moment. So a lot of things, it's like, yeah, I like this movie, but yeah, it's, not lately. Yeah, they haven't, they haven't
It
done it.
becomes harder and harder to find time to do these things.
Yeah. But on the other side, it's a good thing because it's like you're doing something that you're interested in, and that's taking up your time, as opposed to doing something that many people do with their lives or all their lives, where they don't like what they're doing, and they may not have much downtime because they're busy doing that. So
Overworked.
So on behalf of TGF Tech Games Fest, the stream, and of course Cause and Effect Gamers, I'd like to thank you for your time and your insights. For those who are watching,
for having me.
For those of you who are watching the stream, we will have Natasha's information or links that she provides through our social media. And if you're watching this through the YouTube channel at a later date, we'll have that information in the description. So once again, thank you for your time.
So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.